Okay, welcome back, everyone. Can you hear me on this new channel okay? You should see now in the chat for this Zoom call the link to the Miro board, which if you click on that, you're going to be able to join us here in the Miro. Can you hear me okay, Tena?
Yeah, you are.
You can hear it perfectly.
Okay, great. So just as people join, we'll come back to the questions, but just in the interest of time. Come into the Miro. It should work on any browser. I see some friendly arrows popping up, which is excellent. So as you can see, you can go back across what we've covered already this morning. So there's more material there than we could cover in a brief time. What we'd like to do now, just to understand a little bit more about who you all are and where you are, and also just give you a chance to have a play with Miro if you've not used it before. So I'm going to click on this little function which brings everyone here. For those just dialing in, use the Miro link which is in the chat. So take one of these little colored post-its here, which you'll be able to move. Other things hopefully you can't. So choosing a color for the type of organization you work for, an NGO, government or municipality, academia, business, or something else independently. Choose the respective color. Add your name, organization, and a brief reason why you're here today. And if you zoom in on one of these post-its, you can go in relatively close. So I'm Tim from Korimako. I am running the session, if you like. I can then take my post-it. I can just do Control X or Apple X to cut it out. And then I'm going to go and find where on the map I am, which is in the north of Slovenia. I'm going to put my post-it on the map. So please take a couple of minutes and do that. Complete a post-it for your name, organization, and where are you today? Has anyone got any technical issues that are stopping you doing that? If you can't access the Miro for any reason, you can put that into the chat and we can paste it in for you. But it's great if you can do it straight into the Miro. Posted the link again just for anyone that might not see it who's just joined. Looks like we have about 20 people online, so hopefully we're going to get about 20 post-its popping up on the map. So there's a few more people probably need to find their way into Miro if you want to play, but a number in progress, which is great. And as you do that, or once you've done that, if you have any questions from the last session, just to come back to that, if you have any questions for us from the introduction, we're very happy to hear them. Now everyone they can just unmute themselves, Milan, right?
That should be right.
So if you have a question, please just unmute yourself and pop your video on if you can. In general, put your video on if you can. It'd be lovely to see you. But yeah, if you want to ask us a question about the presentation, please just go for it. Would be great.
Okay.
Certainly looks like we mostly have people here from the area. There's Tena and I.
Yeah.
We have quite a few Romanians, which is also good to see.
It's actually a longer learning curve with this with getting familiarized with Miro.
It takes a little minute, but it works pretty much the same as any other kind of drawing shapes in PowerPoint or something. So, but if you have any questions on that, happy to answer them. Looks like lots of people have got it. But yeah, so we can do two things at once. You can keep adding your sort of personal introduction to the Miro, just so we see who is here, and if you want to ask us any questions before we move on, let's have a couple more minutes space for that.
Also, if there are any questions, you can also post them in chat box. But as I said, it's beautiful to hear voices and see some faces. But no pressure. Yeah, it's also an important thing to say is that the session is being recorded. So if you don't like to be online on camera, that's also fine.
We have 9 people participating in Miro now, which is good.
So yeah, we weren't totally sure on numbers and things. So let's stick with, in the interests of time and technical simplicity, let's stay together, I think, as a single group. Happy to take questions kind of any time as well in the rest of the session. I guess we have a hard stop at 1:10, Milan, right?
Let me just check and I'll get back to you with the info. I think it is.
So if there are no burning questions, and it looks like I can see the cursors slowing down over the map of Europe, which is good. Hopefully those of you who are in the Miro, now you're feeling at least a little more comfortable with filling in a post-it. So now take a few minutes, but coming back to this question I posed as we went into the break. So thinking about the sort of quick introduction that we've given, thinking about your place in your home, probably. You can think about somewhere else, but think about a place. And then think about, how would you make the mission? How would you like the mission to be? How would you describe the mission? One exercise we don't have a time to sort of fully dive into today, but it is helpful for thinking about this, is if your home is in the news in 2030 as a result of successfully achieving your mission, what would the news headline be? What would they be saying about your community and your place around the world? Again, done properly, that we take a bit more time for that, but it's the sort of, your place is on the front page of your favorite publication. How would you imagine, what would you like that headline to be? And then kind of reverse engineer that a little bit into, okay, so what does the mission need to be today? So grab one of these green post-its, which I will drag down from above. If you can't access Miro, you can put this into the chat and we will paste it into one of the post-its for you. But please tell us roughly what place you're thinking of. And fill in one of these green post-its with a mission statement. So one sentence should have a date that is within the next decade. Should focus on what you need and really want to see change in your community. Don't be limited by all the hard stuff. So go from what needs to happen, not what's going to be hard to have happen.
You can also think about it in terms when you're dreaming about a better Belgrade, better Temeshwar, better any city you're located in. How does the city look like once you close your eyes and imagine yourself walking through your city in 2025 or in a few years' time? and city being really improved, how does it look like? Kind of, it has a slightly dreamlike character, not as in impossible, but really when you're dreaming of a better city, how does it look like?
And also one sense we get quite often in the region is that immigration and people leaving is one of the big challenges. So again, back to this, which is a key part of why we've set the overarching thinking around the best possible places to live, work, and visit. So achieving your mission should mean that anyone you know who left wants to come back, and lots of people you don't know want to move there. Because there aren't any better options. This is the best place to be, type of. So one, yeah, Milan.
Just wanted to add, because we have a few new people, just to maybe shortly repeat the instruction what they need to do, so just to get them integrated.
Yeah, so just here, join us in the Miro. I see that Milan has shared the link. Grab one of these green Post-its and write down, try and make it a sentence. So something by such and such a date. So Kennedy said, we will put a man, okay, let's say a person, preferably, on the moon within the decade. That was the mission. We will have a person on the moon within the decade. So in my city of, we will by, and try and write that into a green Post-it. And really make that, you could argue that it wasn't actually desperately important to get somebody on the moon. We face perhaps more pressing challenges that should be responding to that. There are no right or wrong answers. It's really just to kind of have a play with this process. But
also try to put aside all of the policy or regulatory financial constraints that you think might be obstructing this mission to be delivered. Just try and think without those as if they are not there currently. So
there is nothing that would stop us, which is the dreamlike part that Tena mentioned. So I think I see one here, maybe. So probably one of the rules is you can't use maybe. So maybe have a bit more of a play with that. Again, like Tena said, for some of the cities, is we will clean the river up by such and such a date. We will clean the air by such and such a date. Everybody will have a comfortable house by such and such a date, for example. Once you have something that you're relatively comfortable with, and we really promise this is really not a test, then let's use just this map here on the top left, the one marked grouped 1. So drag your Post-it and put it approximately on the place that you're thinking about when you write the mission. So let's just use this map here on the screen that I'm sharing. Again, you'll all be looking bifocally at 2 versions of Miro now, one in your browser and one on the Zoom call. And they should be, the challenge is to set these in like this tantalizing space that is, I don't know how we would do that. I struggle to imagine how we would do that, but I can just about imagine how we might do that. So it reflects what we need, and also it should definitely be on the realm of how to do that. But you can imagine how it perhaps could happen, but you don't know exactly. If you know exactly how it would happen, or you think you know exactly how it would happen, it's too simple. It should feel quite uncomfortable. So for those who have finished writing, can you move your post-its onto this map, onto the what's called the Group 1 map? You can, once you have it written, you can just adjust the size of it by selecting it and scaling it from the corner. So again, no problem. Some of these might, if there's many people from a similar place, we might see them kind of pile up. I think I see a red guest thinker. Maybe you put this one down here, but can you put it on top of the map, roughly where you're thinking about? Yep, wonderful. So if we were able to all be in the same place, we'd be doing very similar with pens and papers and a map on the board at this point. But it's also, this is much easier to roll up and take home, so it has its pros and cons. I see we've got at least 10, 12 people in here now, so that's great. Looks like things are moving faster and faster, so people are getting a bit more comfortable with the tool, which is excellent.
I do not want to make some kind of a spoiler alert, but just from skimming briefly through them, it's interesting to see how they're not too kind of siloed, not too sector specific, but actually quite a few of them have a more holistic agenda to them.
Good stuff. So I guess not too surprisingly, we have a good Serbian cluster in the making, I see. Excellent. Well, hopefully just as these last ones are finished off, and I don't want to zoom in on ones that are works in progress. The trick for next time is if you want some quiet working space, maybe some of you already managed this, you can drive one off, drag a post-it off to some corner of the Miro, work on it and bring it back. But so we probably won't go through all of these, but it'd be lovely to hear just a flavor of some of them. So now that you've had a chance to think this through a little bit and write some down, we'd love to hear your voices. So volunteers to kind of share what you've written and where you're from. So just tell us who you are, where you're based, what was the mission you wrote down, and why did you focus on that one. Don't be shy. If you're shy, you just have to listen to us talking for another 10, 15 minutes, which probably isn't what you need.
Milan, what did you write?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to break the ice, I can start.
Yeah, go on then.
I didn't want to interrupt for other people to have the chance, but I wrote that, where it is. Yeah, we have created a physical space as an innovation circular playground that will present and perfect circular urban solutions by 2025. And what I meant by this is that we need some kind of display of good practice and at least display of experiments, probes, and innovations that are currently in the pipeline, so-called, or in a process of being perfected. In order to two things to happen. One is to inform the regular citizen about what is currently happening in their city or in their town. Two is to actually provide a space where direct interaction between the innovators and the citizens or final users will happen. So to provide them also a place to constantly iterate and and directly have the feedback from the use perspective. And actually there is a third point, in order to cities to show how they are approaching the sustainability problems. And for that, we really need something to have physically present in the cities. This is a more advanced, I would call, version of a living lab. For some that know, great. For some that know, maybe that's a good thing to type in Google. Living labs or test beds, in order to facilitate collaboration between innovation, citizens, and governments. And put things in practice.
Thanks a lot, Milan. I mean, really good initiative. I think, you know, it's relatively discreet and there's also challenging, obviously. And I think it's a good example of within any community, I think there's space for kind of, you know, at least kind of 3 layers of missions in a way. You know, Tena's showing the sort of best possible place to live, solving some of the key challenges within a certain time frame, and then bringing them down to this, which is still requires a multitude of different things to come together to make happen. So it's really true that, you know, the mission can and probably needs to be set on multiple levels. You might think about, you know, it's where this level sort of bringing in kind of smart goals thinking and saying, okay, well, how would we, so there's lots of places that have created kind of living labs, and have they led to much? So maybe thinking about what's the sort of level of participation or learning or something, what's some sort of metric around that lab that would help you know whether it's also being really successful rather than just existing. But yeah, good idea.
I would also maybe, Milan, just building on what Tim has said, ask you, does this potential mission, in your view, kind of has the potential to entice the collective capacity to dream of long-term futures, or just of a certain discrete group of society? So would this be applicable? Would like the whole society, the whole community stand behind this mission, or do you think only a certain group would be up for it? So just as a provocative question, not only for you, but for the wider kind of general audience, to think about it in more broad terms, would the general community be kind of accepting of a certain mission, or just one group of people?
Let's hold on to that. Oop,
we have someone that wants.
We had Georgia, but I have muted him.
Okay.
Let's hear 1 or 2 others as well, in the interest of time. So another volunteer, or I could pick on a couple. I can also zoom out. I see we've got quite a Belgrade looking kind of cluster here, but that's all good.
We have 1 Romanian. Fortunately, we don't have Bulgarian in Greece.
Would someone like to, I mean, this one, Belgrade will become a green city by 2030. Seems like a really good foundation. Does someone want to speak for that a little bit more? Maybe.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marina Popovic from CirEkon.
Hi, Marina.
And when I'm thinking about Belgrade looking greener in 2030, this is my desire, but probably it's not a realistic one. And I was thinking more about what we need to do in order to have Belgrade greener in that period, maybe to develop a new urbanistic plan, which includes a lot of greener buildings and all regulations in that direction.
I mean, that's a really important point around the mission idea, is that the way you describe a mission, as Tena says, it should work for the whole community. So obviously it's quite a process. None of us can sort of instantly come up with the perfect way of doing that. So it should really capture the imagination of everybody. So I have a question for you on that. I'll come back to you. But if you achieve that, as soon as you say that, most people should start to be able to imagine what would have to happen to get there. Again, it's this process of kind of disconnecting those challenges and realities from where do we need to get to. So So the kind of thinking about what would we have to do to get there comes next, I suppose. Once you can say, well, that's what the mission will be. To this one, maybe a question I would have for you is when you say green city, it's one of these terms that can mean a lot of things to different people. You know, in Christchurch, New Zealand, where I'm from, after the earthquakes, there was a lot of talk about green city, but kind of the politicians that held a lot of levers of power over the process basically meant lots more grass and trees. And the opportunity to get to a really circular or climate neutral city that could have been driven, if that was the mission, was a lot of it was lost. So for example, so do you think that in Belgrade, like there's wide understanding, there's sort of a consensus about what becoming a green city by 2030 would mean, or is there maybe a more tangible way you could describe that? I really like the fact that you've said will become. I think that's really important language.
Yes, I believe that there isn't a consensus between policymakers and construction sector to or even urbanistic plan to achieve that, for sure. And we for sure don't have a plan for that to come.
Yeah, not so much the plan, but is there a kind of common understanding of how you've written down the mission? I think would be something to, to keep. Again, this is an unfair exercise to do it in 5 minutes. It's not a 5-minute job, but just to illustrate there. But yeah, thanks a lot. Really, really nice. Maybe one more, and then just to make sure we finish on time. I could pick on perhaps the author of Transition to Solar Energy by 2030. Seems really discreet, really clear. Is that everything? How would you measure if we've got there, perhaps?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, my name is Lazar. I'm from Belgrade, from Faculty of Agriculture, and also I'm a colleague of Milan Veselinov. And actually, when we are talking about the air quality, the main thing is actually, I believe, the emissions of particles which we have from the when we heat our homes, and when we use the coal, and which is a poor quality in that process. So I believe that we need to, in order to tackle that, we need to change our the way we get our energy. So that's actually why I stated this transition to solar energy.
Excellent. So I mean, there's a couple of thoughts around that. Obviously, there's some technical thoughts around solar and winter and heating and fix, and again, often these ideas, you say, okay, well then we actually need to do some more work on assessing the potentials of X. But perhaps this is one, I guess, that it's a good example and one I often come back to. So transitioning to solar is one question. So say you have coal power plants today and you go to solar power plants tomorrow. There's a lot less carbon coming from producing the same number of electrons and megawatt hours, etc. Do you have any thoughts around who controls that system? And how does it look today? So who produces the power and sells power today? And will it be the same actors? Obviously solar, and Tena talked about some of the examples from Petrović. Is it a shift to a much more distributed or collectively owned system that also should be part of the mission? Like, is it just the technical change, or is it also questions of business models and community ownership and financial returns that maybe could be part of this mission too?
Well, I believe that now the government is controlling the production of energy with the thermoelectrical plants, but I believe that some minor stakeholders can show up, and I think that I know one person who have actually solar. How should I say that? It's not solar plant, but more
installation, maybe.
Yes, some installations. I need we need to have more of people like that, and Yes, you said the returning of investment. I believe that people think that they will have to wait a long period of time for their investment to return, and I believe that it's not that now, because the solar panels are much cheaper than earlier. So I don't know.
So again, it's just a part of the practice is to think about not just how the system is now and going from say coal to solar within the system, the social system. Again, the sort of changing to solar is sort of the branches of the tree, but actually how would we bring about that change? I think it's really important to sort of embed that into the mission. And for example, it might be we want to transition to solar and reduce the cost of electricity by half, or we want to transition to solar and ensure that the returns from that technology are shared with everybody. Great examples. Look, thanks a lot for joining us in this little process today.
Thank you.
And thanks a lot. I mean, a little crowdsourcing exercise. Always really interested to see what kind of comes to the top when you think about what would you really like to see happen. In terms of next steps, I mean, we sort of left some space here for feedback and brainstorming. Oops, I see that's moved. Ultimately, we're interested to know whether you would like to team up with us and kind of come on this sort of journey together. Can we help your communities in your places? On Medium, which is just a blogging site, for those who aren't familiar with it, that's where we're putting a lot of pieces of writing around the work we're doing, some of those propositions for the future from the different cities that Tena talked about. So if you'd like to read a little bit more about the work we're doing, you can do so through Medium. Again, you just click on this link in the Miro. We'll tidy up a little bit and then lock this Miro, but leave it open. So you're very welcome to come back and have a look through what we covered quite quickly this morning in terms of information and background. Many of these are links to those Medium articles as well. So if you're interested to read a little more, we leave this with you. If you're interested to explore how we might team up and work together, we'd love to hear from you. My email's here at the end. Milan knows how to find us. Sounds like many of you know how to find Milan. So yeah, thanks a lot for taking the time to share with us a little bit today. Milan, thanks a lot for the invitation. Tena,
thank you from my side, as well. It's really been interesting, and it will be good to bring some of your feedback into one of our regular sessions and just ponder on them for our sakes as well. And definitely looking forward to connecting to some of you. It will be really good to make a deep dive some of those exercises in your particular cities.
Yeah. Tim and Tena, thank you very much for actually joining us. This is only the first step of creating thriving communities. Well, it's a longer and systemic process. And in regards to the colleagues, I think that it is a good thing that actually a lot of us know each other now, and that's the goal, to break this unfamiliarity between people and to express our needs towards each other, and at the end to become colleagues of each other throughout the Balkans and wider, of course. I was glad to see this happening. This is emergent things are happening, and I can say that now my colleagues are pretty vocal about their needs, and that's a good direction. Thanks. So not to steal any more time, I would invite all the participants to join back on the link that is provided now in chat. In 5 minutes, we are going to talk about 2 different things. In Hall 1, we are going to talk about the representative and project manager from Climate-KIC that is enabling this whole process and this whole project behind. And with many other activities, there are systemic restructuring and focusing on Agenda 2030. Sorry, that's not Agenda 2030, it's Horizon Europe. To see what are the opportunities that are before us. And we're going to talk about this with Annalisa Spalazzi from 1:15 to 2 o'clock. And in hall 2, we are going to talk about cities again and see what is the roles of citizens in creating sustainable cities and circular cities. That will be in hall 2, well, actually that session has already started until 2 o'clock. So thank you very much. You can click the link in the chat box, and see you very soon then. Tim and Tena, thank you very much, and hopefully you're going to stay and maybe learn for yourself something even more.
Thank you, Milan.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye all.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Be in touch. All the best.
Bye-bye.